Those of you who've been following Lady Gaga, she just released an album called I Was Born This Way, and it's actually a pretty good song. And when you look at Lady Gaga, you have to acknowledge she was born that way. And so were we all. Every one of us was born this way, whatever that means. And the anthem, as she presents it to the world, is really quite wonderful. It's, accept it, guys. Accept what you were born as. Accept the person you are. Don't care what the world tells you. Be yourself. Be your authentic self. And what does that mean? Well, it really, as you can imagine, means something different to everybody. To be your authentic self, for most people, is a license to behave badly. Let's not say most people, for many people. But trying to understand what it means to be yourself is really, in a way, part of your whole life's mission. And probably the first question that comes up is, well, then who am I? Who's the self I'm trying to be? And for a good portion of a whole lifetime, that self is defined as this ego entity. This unique, specific, special, distinctive person that you are. And trying to find that uniqueness is, for many people, the defining element of their teenage years, and for many people beyond that. Constantly looking for, who am I, so that I can be me. And if you're like me or many other people, you try on a lot of different personas and see which ones work and which ones don't. And the ones that work, in your mind, usually, are the ones that a lot of people affirm. They like you that way. So you want to be the self that's approved or accepted by the world. But for some people, they're born a way that is not accepted by the world. And so their anthem really is to be who they are and relish in their non-acceptance. Be defiantly who they are. To live the life that you were born to live is a kind of marching order to be free of constraint, of the worldly constraint. And that's all fine, except that it presents us with an identity. It creates an identity that we believe ourselves to be. Some people make peace with that identity and love their identity. Some people struggle in that world of identity. They struggle because they don't want to be who they are. They don't want to be what they are. You know, it can start with getting on the scale in the morning. Those of you who do that, I've stopped doing that. Because I would actually get on the scale in the morning and I would go, I don't want to be this person. I'm 10 pounds overweight. And I don't know what to do about it. You know, I mean, I know what to do about it, but I don't want to do it. And so there was this rejection. Then my day would start out with a rejection of myself. I don't want to be this person. I want to be a svelte, different-looking, younger, more hair person. And that is not, that's not the case. And when you become someone who is endlessly dissatisfied with the self they find themselves to be, you create a situation that is, for most people, disastrous. It's a life of endless dissatisfaction, longing, reaching for the wrong things in life, the wrong affirmations. I mean, you look at all those people who lose, 50 pounds. I'm not talking about you, Chris, but I'm talking about people on television shows who lose 50 pounds or 100 pounds or whatever and think, well, now they've become the self they were meant to be. And I know from having gone up and down in weight that you're no different. You're no different. When I was in the 8th grade of school, I was one of the tallest kids in my class. And to this day, I feel taller than Tom. I can't tell you why, except for the fact it's an identity that locked in completely. And so I've never had a sense of being short, although I am short, so I'm told. But I've never felt it. And I've seen people who have locked in with identities at various stages along the way, and that's who they are. The first step in finding an authentic self is to stop being at war with yourself, which means accept you as you in this moment. Accept you as you find yourself. It doesn't matter what you find. The secret is say, okay, I forgive myself for being this being. I allow myself to be what I find myself as at this moment in time. Some of us find ourselves to be beautiful, some not so beautiful, some, have what we wanted to be, we had the life we wanted, or we didn't have the life we wanted. The fighting of that is where all the suffering comes in. The accepting of what it is where peace and joy begin to emerge. Just accepting it exactly as it is. If you can't accept it exactly as it is, and there's still some room to fix it, then fix it. If you can still do something, lose weight, gain weight, build muscle, lose muscle, get a better job, whatever it is, do that. The great thing about Rudy's teaching is he saw that life was the place in which you formed and reformed yourself as best you could into the image that you wanted to be. And at some point you've either gotten there or you haven't gotten there. If you haven't gotten there, there comes a point, usually around this age, 60, I'm 68, but I'm talking to a lot of guys in their 60s, something happens and you go, I'm not going to get there. I'm never going to be that. It didn't happen. Life didn't deliver. Or you get what you wanted, which is wonderful also. But not getting what you wanted feels horrible until you accept it. And you go, I tried. I tried. I did the best I could. This actually is a true saving grace, because you can accept at that point the effort, and then you settle into this extraordinarily unexpected state of peace. There's no struggle. You just take it as it is. Having the best career in the world and having no career don't necessarily end up anywhere else but in this place of, it's okay. I have arrived at where I am. And in some funny way, those who arrive there are equal. You're completely equal. It doesn't matter whether everything worked out perfectly for you in your life or it didn't work out at all. When you arrive at acceptance, you're equal with everyone else, complete in yourself. It's hard to believe that. And people in Western society particularly suffer like mad because they always feel they never got where they were supposed to get. And they never do get where they're supposed to get because they're always struggling for it to become somewhere else. They're trying to look for the next thing that will arrive there. And the only place to arrive at, and I tell you this in the introductory class, I tell it to you all the time, the only place to ever arrive at is right here. Literally, right here, now. There is nowhere else, and there will never be anywhere else. Nothing you want or think you're looking for is in the future. It will not arrive in the future. It will only arrive now. This is it. This is all there is. Nothing else but this, and this is it. Spiritual work is trying to let go of all the dissatisfaction and all the struggle and all the stuff that is fighting this moment. And nothing gets you more in the moment than sitting still. Nothing brings you more to the present than sitting still. And if you arrive in the present moment and stillness in an aggravated state, wishing you were anywhere but here, you've got to deal with that. Somewhere along the line, you have to deal with the fact that you don't like where you are, or the person who's there. And that's a source of great suffering. Somehow or another, you have to sit still long enough so that the attachment to your unhappiness, or the attachment to your happiness, the attachment to anything, just starts to give way, and this opening occurs. And when this opening occurs, you find yourself where you have always been, where you have always lived. And that place is best described as Satchidananda, consciousness, bliss, and truth. That is you. That is your true self. Those who want to be an authentic self become that. That's who you are. You think you are this striving, desiring ego entity, and you are. You are. In time and space, for a period of time, in that space, you are this entity. But when you let go of that long enough, when you just fall into the simplicity of your own true being, of your own true self, that falls away, and you just are. That place of being is free. It is light. It is awake. It is conscious. It is blissful. It is real. And you feel that. You feel it not with a kind of mental consideration. You feel it with every ounce of your being. You know who you are. And you know you have always been that. And when you discover that which you are, you know the truth of your being. And you know the truth of everybody else's being. Because they are no other than you. No one is other than you. In the deepest and most fundamental way. It is one being that you are, that has multiple expressions. And all those multiple expressions are sitting in this room right now. You are surrounded by a multiplicity of yourself. And you are either fighting that by saying, I'm better than everyone here, or I'm lesser than everybody here, or I'm other than everyone here, or you are settling into this extraordinary state of being and falling in love with everyone here. There is no real separation. The mind separates, the mind divides, the mind creates this idea of individualized self. And it does it for its own purposes. It's not a bad thing, it's telling the story of life. This is the story. This is the world. This is the universe we inhabit. It's an amazing story, and we love every moment of it. And it's right to love every moment of it. But it's even better to understand that from which all of this story arises. And not only to understand it, but to know that as yourself, as you, your authentic self. Your authentic self has an element of this ego mind, look who I am, that's all part of it. But your deeper self is vast, infinite, eternal, and all-knowing. It is total compassion and love. It is forgiveness and allowing. It is gratitude, and it's a blessing. It's a blessing to each person who experiences it in themselves and to each person who shares it with others. This is who we are. This is who we're becoming. You can devote your whole life, if you want, to being separate from that, but at some point it all returns to that. And either you return to that joyously and willingly, or you get dragged back into it. You know, the end of life spares no one. The end of life takes everything away from you. Everything. You know, it doesn't matter how much you weigh in the morning. It doesn't matter if you've lost your hair or not lost your hair. Because it's all taken away. You wake up in the morning, once you feel this extraordinary sense of awakening inside, you wake up in the morning and you go, thank God, I'm awake. I'm in the world. I'm alive. I'm here. This is real. I'm touching this. And you also awake inside with the absolute knowledge of the temporary nature of this, the changeability of this, the temporality of this. You wake up from all of that, and you have one foot in the world, or let's even put it, one little toenail in the world, and the vastness of you in yourself. And you get to enjoy both. You get to enjoy what is in both its eternal manifestation and in its remarkable manifestation as a changeable, moment-to-moment drama. And it's wonderful. It's all wonderful. The whole thing is wonderful. And it's not anywhere near as disturbing as when you're caught by it. When you're caught in the drama, you suffer, you enjoy, you live it all, which is terrific, but you're caught. Awakening is still being in it, still being part of it, but not caught. You lose nothing. You lose nothing. The only thing you lose in awakening is your insanity. The stupid part of you that's telling you, oh, you should have lost weight today, or you should have eaten something else yesterday, or whatever it is that creates that mind thing that never is satisfied. That is the part that you lose. That falls away, the critical you. You don't lose your critical functioning. You're still able to function. Something still tells you, don't do this, do that. Right and wrong are still very much in play, but they're not coming from your in mind and from everything people told you for the last however many years of your life. They're coming from a deep place of knowing. There is right and wrong, and you know it. It's not something you've been taught. You know it. There's a moral core to each of us. It knows what it's about. There's right action. There's right behavior. But you don't have to think it. You don't have to acknowledge it in some sort of external way. You know it. And not only do you know it, you live in accord with it because that's your inner nature. It's your authentic self. Your authentic self is exquisitely beautiful, exquisitely in tune with what is. It is the very essence of life itself, and it is operating in you at this very second. You're that very thing. And to walk around going, oh my God, am I going to get that job? Oh my God, what did I do wrong? Blah, 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 blah. That's obliterating the knowledge of yourself, of who you are. And then there's the problem of trying too hard to become yourself. What's that about? You know, one of my spiritual friends says he has an allergy to spiritual seekers. And he has an allergy to spiritual seekers because there's an absurdity in what everybody's doing, even in this room. Trying to be yourself. If I were to put you in a room, if we were going to have an audition right now, and I was going to put you in a room and I say, just be yourself. Try to be yourself. You would freeze up in a second. What does he mean? How do I be myself? You have no clue how to be yourself, but you are brilliant at doing it. You're brilliant at being it. Everybody's brilliant at being it. You are yourself. You're already there. You're already the thing you're looking for. Be it. And then just be it in a state of stillness and quiet. And if you can just do that, the true depth of that being of yourself will just flood through. It'll flood through. And you will be you in the most remarkable way. And all you will do for a few days is cry. And then you will walk around in a state of continual amazement and saying thank you to everyone and everything. Because you are yourself. You are yourself. And you will want everyone around you to know that, not that you're yourself, but that they are themselves. That they're exquisitely wonderful as they are. And the minute they accept that, the portal will open to the fullness and the depth of that, and they will walk through life as an expression of this absolute infinite beauty that is in every person sitting here. All I want as a teacher is for you to know that. Period. And anything that stands in the way of that, I would like to help you get rid of. And if you invite me into this process, or invite this teaching into your process, it will work. It'll just work. It's not the only teaching. There are a million other teachings. Invite something in and say to yourself, I want to surrender. I want to let go of the struggle, the duality, the ego-minded smallness of mind that most of us suffer, and just be myself. Just be who I am. And you will arrive at that. And when you arrive at that, everything changes and nothing changes. And you're just who you are. We're all on that journey. Everybody's on that journey, whether you acknowledge it or not. And if you're sitting in this room for whatever reason, you're in play. You are in play. Everybody. So engage this. Engage the idea of this. Engage the practice. Be willing to search for your authentic being. And know that it's... You can't even describe a distance between you and it because there's no distance. There's no time between you and it. It's there as I speak. The only thing that's not there as I speak is your mind. Saying, I don't believe it, I'm not ready, I'm not good enough. That's the worst one. I'm not good enough. I don't deserve this. I'm not worthy. Nobody's worthy. Get over it. Any questions?
What do you see I need to let go?
What do I see that you need to let go?
What do you see in me that I need to let go?
Not very much. You know? I mean, it's not for me to name, ultimately. It's for you to just sit there and... Let me put it this way. You can't let go of it anyway. You know, there's nothing you can do. It happens. You know, the line, I've said this many times, it's been so interesting. You can't awaken. That which is dreaming you awakens. So just be. Just be present. Just do. Practice until it is what you are. You know, until this awakening for me, I was living a life that's literally no different than the life I'm living right now. The only difference was that I was practicing this, and now I'm not practicing it. It just is. And that's all you need to do. And the life is the same quality, it's the same beauty, it's the same everything. You're living a beautiful life. Live that life. And at one point in time, the thing dreaming you will go, hey, Bob. And you go like that. Done. Or like what happened with me. You're just sitting there and suddenly Bob isn't there anymore. Yourself is there, but Bob just isn't there. And you go, oh, interesting. And that's that. Well, I was a teacher, a student of mine in LA who just awoke recently. And he did it because he was so angry at hearing me talk about all this. It made him totally crazy. Why is he talking? Why can't I do this? He just got so caught in it and in the tension of it that he went like that. Done. So I don't care if I frustrate you. Because I know it's all part of the process. It's all working. And, one way or another, it finds its way. We don't do it. We're a dream character. I know nobody believes that. We're a dream character. Everyone in this room is a dream character.
So is the thing that's dreaming us the self? Or
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And it loves the dream. It loves it. But it also knows when to wake you up. Or it doesn't even know when, it just does it. It just... sometimes I say this, it's a car crash. There's so many different ways that it has to do it, but it does it. And the ultimate way, in the end, it's called death. But even that, I won't get into this, it's a long conversation, but even that doesn't awaken everybody. Many people are still so caught at that point that they can't unravel even then.
The ego will not, or hasn't let go.
Yeah, it'll be broken down over a very long period of experience. Time disappears, but it will be called hell until you stop fighting it. It's just stop fighting it. The enormous gratitude one gets ultimately in life when you awaken is that you've stopped fighting. You've just said, okay, now. You're done. You're done. You did it. And then you're still here. There's still a life to be lived, but it's living it. It's living it. You're kind of in the passenger seat.
So is this a conscious resistance that...
It's mostly unconscious resistance. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if it was conscious resistance, it can be conscious resistance, but why? Once you get to be conscious, why resist? You don't want to resist this thing. Trust me. It's the most beautiful thing ever. There's nothing greater than this self that you are. Nothing. Nothing. For you to resist it can only be done in ignorance. And ignorance is what dominates human experience. We are living in a kind of ignorance. It's a willful ignorance. It's the self wanting that ignorance because it loves the dynamic and the play of it. But at some point, something happens in many human beings. They go, what is this about, and why am I here, and what's this all for? Nothing satisfies. Nothing that you get in the world is right. Nothing is worth it. And when that starts to happen for you, this process of unraveling begins. And ultimately, you get to the core of it all, which is that it was just there for your pleasure. Enjoy.
Sort of like a dream.
Yeah.
I have two questions. I don't know if this is the first one. I understand that this is a short answer because I know we've been sitting for a long time. But what about when you talk about just be, or don't fix yourself, just look where, but what if you're operating from a selfish place or an unkind place or a self-serving place, or it's very confusing about some Buddhist philosophy, which I find makes a lot of sense, and treating people with compassion and working harder to be more patient and more understanding, and rather than just operating from a place of, I want a better job or I want this or that, but the actual fundamentals of how you treat other people, what kind of a place you're coming from, these sort of core spiritual morals, or a way that hopefully you strive, and I wouldn't say even try, because I know Rudy always said he didn't believe in trying, you just do it. There's no such thing as trying. But the idea of just working hard at doing that,
It's just what motivates you to do that.
Right.
When you accept that you're shit,
Okay.
and you're full of shit, and you're a terrible person, and you do terrible things to people, that moment is the moment of potential real change.
Okay.
And that's when people start to turn things around in some way. When you don't accept that, then you keep constantly giving that same "you're full of shit" stuff to everybody around you, and you treat people
selfish.
really
Selfish
badly.
ways.
Yeah,
Right.
you
It's
continue.
always about self-serving.
Yes, you perpetuate a very negative experience. When you start to accept that you're not right with the world, or you're not right with yourself, which is a big deal. Most people can't do that. It's too painful to face that. But if you say, I am a very bad human being, or I treat people really badly, you know, if you can arrive at that, right at that moment of arrival comes, what can I do about that? How can I atone for that? How can I change that? And then conscious effort enters into the picture, and you enter the process of changing and becoming different.
So what you're saying is it's not just about accepting that if you treat people, you know, because it's confusing.
But try to change if you haven't accepted that.
Right.
How would you change that?
Right.
Because if you don't accept it, you're ignorant of it. It's accepting, this is my condition, this is who I am, now something can happen. But it's the failure to accept that creates most of the continuing problems in the world. But most people can't accept these things.
So most people worry more about their weight or their job, but I'm saying, what about the other ideas of actually treating people better, or
Sure.
wanting to arrive with more patience and compassion for
When you start
everyone.
to awaken spiritually, those feelings of wanting to be a better person and treat people better arrive. But then you have to be careful not to become, I'm a good person. I'm a holy person. I do this, I do that, and I'm so wonderful. Because that's as big a problem and a trap as being a shit. Because you're still locked in that thing and that identity. And that you even have to come to grips with. And there are a lot of people who I know and have known for years who are lost in that space.
I guess I'm lost. Thank you. The other question I have is, I have to deal with, I'm sure I have compassion for everyone who deals with this. I'm sure there are a lot of people, but chronic pain. I've had pain all the time, and I have noticed that I just try to distract myself more than I did before I had this. And it's harder for me to sit and hard for me to do practice, so I'm wondering if you could have any...
You know, Eckhart Tolle.
Because I get more in my head, and I can hear the tinnitus and the chronic pain.
Right.
It feels more.
Eckhart Tolle talks about it better than I do, or could. He talks about the pain body in his book Power of Now. It's worth reading that again if you. But here's the thing with pain, even
Physical, not just mental.
No,
Yeah.
physical, no. But if you watch pain, and I'm old enough to, I wake up in the middle of the night with stuff, and I look at it, I go, there's a why me God, and then there's like, well, just accept this. And what's so interesting about pain is it comes and it has this kind of presence,
Pressure.
and then it kind of subsides. Or usually it does. Usually it's not ongoing. It's not like a knife is sticking into you all day long, usually for most people. But that would be its own teaching. But I have discovered in myself that when I accept the pain as pain, and I don't fight it, I don't in any way understand it, I don't know why, but there is pain, and trust me, as you get older, there is more and more pain. You get it, and you just go, okay, this is what is. I don't get it, I don't like it particularly, but I accept it. But what I don't do, because this is where suffering comes in, I don't project that pain into a lifetime of suffering. My mind doesn't go, oh my God, I'm going to experience this forevermore. I'm experiencing it right now, and it's real. And what happens to me, and this is really something that for me is amazing, when I experience pain in the moment and I don't fight it, and I enter into it and I sit with it, it is the pathway to this opening. It takes me there every time. It's like, pain is, Rudy said it often, God's love. People have a horrible time with that phrase, but pain is a doorway. And ultimately we all go through that doorway. And we're all terrified of it, so we all avoid that doorway. But the real entry point into deep surrender for many people is pain.
This is the same thing you were talking about when you said fear. You have
Fear.
to go to fear instead of
Exactly. And
retreating from it.
that's right. And fear around pain.
Accept the fear.
That's right.
Go to it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Go to fear, which surrounds pain much of the time.
Right.
You know, in classical literature, you have the temple dogs, the guardians, keeping you from the temple, and they scare you so you don't go in the temple. You know, if you
Right.
just walk past them,
Like figments of your
yeah,
imagination.
you can walk right in the temple. You know, or people who feel unworthy and sit outside the temple year after year after year. The door's open. Go in.
It's so true that we actually conjure things up, and I've done this myself. And coming from a law enforcement background and having retired from that, there are rules that are created for everything. I've seen people come along and say, "Well, I'm going in there." I say, "You can't go in there. Why not?" "Well, you can't. It's a rule." And it's like they didn't even hear me because they just go ahead and I said, "How did you get in there?" "Yeah, I walked in."
Right. That's spiritual. That's spiritual practice.
Yes. And I thought, I have to wrap my brain around this. They know something I don't know.
Yeah. Trust this, not this.
Yeah, exactly.
Bruce, is awakening like choosing love in every moment?
It's like love choosing you in every moment. You can practice by choosing it, but when it awakens, you don't choose anything, you don't do anything, it's just there. You will be love in every moment. You will be that, and you are that. But you have to
Accept that.
practice it until it happens. You know, and I do find if you sit still long enough, these moments of stillness and whatever you want to call it, deep sweetness, they elongate. They become more and more and more until it becomes a real space that you are familiar with. And one day that becomes the space you live in, and this ego-minded thing does not.
I'm kind of fascinated by this whole choice thing right now, and the fact that there's kind of two ways to put it, that we can't choose it ourselves because sexual awakening has to happen for this grace has to fall on us. However, at the same time, you and many other teachers also say, if I wanted it right now, I could just choose it right now. Which, those two don't seem to go together, and I feel like
But they do.
everything in my heart wants to choose it right now, that I just want to strip all that insanity away and just throw it out. So I feel like I'm choosing it, but it's not choosing me yet.
That's fair.
Can I make a comment?
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to share something since I felt like there was something I could share with her as well as what you just said and my own experience that really helped me. And when you were saying about selfishness and you're afraid of the acceptance, what I found was that something, as you've been saying, but there's something that just some people are not hearing, I think, is when you accept the worst thing, if you're a murderer, when you do accept it, that's when the magic happens. It's absolutely magical what happens. Once you do accept it, what I find is that you actually, if you go deep, that you aren't a murderer, even though you might have murdered. So it's like a deeper sense, so there's no fear. It's almost like a safety security system we have built in with, that you don't have to say, okay, if I accept I'm a murderer, I'm going to be a murderer. It's almost, it goes, there's a level that happens right after that, and then there's this round of more than acceptance. It's what your fear of what you think you are, it goes away, it dissipates immediately with the acceptance. And I wanted to just share that with them. And I described it one time to some people as like, it's like a fruit when you, and there's a seed, a pit inside, and when you peel off all the fruit, there's a pit, and you go, oh my God, it's a pit. But then when you think about it again, you take a breath and you go, it's not a pit, it's a seed. And it's a seed. It really is a seed. And it's like this aha moment feeling.
Right. Patricia, those are both beautiful images, and I appreciate them. And I hope they speak to people. Anyone else? We're going to get you out of here on time. Okay. Thank you, guys. Blanche, okay. Go for it.
The mundane. I think most of you know we have an email list that we use to send out invitations, announcements, and so on. If you didn't get an invitation to stay today for dinner, it means you're not on our email list. Or if you came today and would like to come again, please be sure that you give me your email before you leave. And we're going to have brunch. There's a lot of people here, so please don't come into the kitchen until we get everything set out that we're serving for brunch. And the house is big. There's plenty of other places to talk besides in the kitchen. Thank you.
And I'm going to, on Blanche's behalf, ask you to be conscious of how much work it is to try to keep all of this going and feed everybody. Anyone who wants to pitch in and help without getting in the way, all the way through the rest of the day would be wonderful, because it takes a lot of help to keep this thing afloat and making it all move smoothly. So be available, and thank you guys very much for coming. Oops, yes?
Bruce, when will you be back?
I'm coming back the first week of August, and I'll send a note out, or Blanche will. Okay? I'll see you all in 2 months. Thank you.